Good day from the ACQ Tower here in Makati City, Philippines. I'm Val Divina Gracia and you're watching Newsline World.
In today's top stories, President Rodrigo Duterte still trusts Health Secretary Francisco Duque III despite PhilHealth irregularities. Japan to join global initiative for fair distribution of COVID-19 vaccines. Myanmar population, women outnumbered men in new poll. Dubai motorists to receive e-certificates on vehicle registrations. Ontario public health officials brace for possible second lockdown due to next wave of COVID-19. And United States tops 6 million coronavirus cases. These stories and more in today's edition of Newsline World.
In the news, despite the Senate's call to file criminal charges against Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque III over alleged irregularities in the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation or PhilHealth, for now President Rodrigo Duterte still trusts him. Meanwhile, the palace said they awaited for the findings of the task force PhilHealth on the corruption issues in the agency. Here's the news from Creslin Cataro.
Palace on Wednesday stated that President Rodrigo Duterte's trust remains on Health Secretary Francisco Duque III.
This was despite the Senate's call to file criminal charges against the official with regards to the alleged anomalies in the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation or PhilHealth. According to presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque, the palace will wait for the recommendation of the task force PhilHealth as they investigate the various issues troubling the agency. However, Roque said Malacanang respects the conclusion of the Senate probe, but the President would defer to the findings of the interagency panel led by the Department of Justice. The task force is expected to submit its findings to President Duterte on September 14.
Ang Presidente, dahil binuo naman niya yung task force, ay susundin po niya ang rekomendasyon at sa ngayon po, inaasahan natin na matatapos yung formal na investigasyon mga September 14. Pagkatapos po niyan, sana po within the month, ay magkaroon na rin po ng rekomendasyon sa Presidente ang ating task force. Bagamat, kapag rekomendasyon ay kasuhan ng ilang mga tao dahil nandiyan na ang ombudsman, pwede na pong gumalaw ang ombudsman.
Recently, the Senate Committee of the Whole urged the filing of criminal charges against Duque, chairman of PhilHealth Board, also to the agency's resigned chief Ricardo Morales, and several others over the improper and illegal implementation of the interim reimbursement mechanism or the cash advances to healthcare institutions.
Meanwhile, the Senate panel recommends the appointment of a new health secretary with stronger will against corruption. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Creslin Catarong, SMNA News.
The Senate has warned that Philippine Health Insurance Corporation is financially bleeding after one of its officials revealed that its fund reserves may go dry by 2022. Lori Vinoya has the details live. Lori, how grim is the embattled agency's financial status and how did the Senate take the report?
Val, Senate President Vicente Soto III said that based on PhilHealth's 2019 financial statement, it appears that it does not have enough funds to pay its creditors in an event of liquidation, as he called for a thorough review of health state insurers' financial status. In his 88-page committee report, Soto revealed that the embattled agency's 2019 financial statement has shown that it has 111 billion pesos worth in liabilities and 109 billion pesos in equities. The senator, however, said that it could be lower if it will not include the 14 billion pesos increase in equity that the company still needs to justify. Soto gave his report during the Senate Committee of the Whole's investigation regarding the widespread corruption surrounding PhilHealth. PhilHealth Senior Vice President Luisa Santiago warned that the company's reserved funds will go dry by 2022 and may need an additional subsidy from the government in order to survive. Santiago also brought out the same in concern back in early August when she explained that the PhilHealth system might collapse in 2022 due to the ongoing pandemic unless additional subsidies will be provided in by the national budget by 2021. Before the pandemic, the PhilHealth official said that the agency's actuarial life is 10 years, but changed her statement last month during the Senate hearing on the alleged widespread corruption within the company. Soto also took note of PhilHealth board member Alejandro Cabading's allegation that the state PhilHealth pension funds' financial statements were manipulated to make it appear that the company is in good standing.
Meanwhile, senators have recommended filing of criminal charges against Health Secretary Francisco Duque III and resigned PhilHealth Chief Ricardo Morales, including several others, over the alleged irregular expenses and projects by the company. Val?
Thank you, Lori, for that live report. On the other hand, a recent scheme involving the PhilHealth premium contributions by the overseas Filipino workers was unearthed during today's panel hearing on the issues of corruption involving the state insurance company. MJ Mondihar for the report.
During the final PhilHealth hearing on Wednesday, Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez presented a whistleblower that will provide a detailed notice in PhilHealth involving the premium contributions coming from overseas Filipino workers or OFWs. Witness Ken Sarmiento, a former audit specialist from PhilHealth assigned at the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration or POEA, reiterated how several recruitment agencies enabled to fake the receipts from OFW PhilHealth contributions.
Ang ibig sabihin, yung mga recruitment agency, yung kinukuha nilang pera sa mga OFW, imbis na ibayad, i-remit sa PhilHealth, hindi na nila binabayad?
Opo.
Ano ginagawa nila?
Hindi na po namin masabi. Pero
so yun na yung pinaghahatian tapos binibigay na yung peke resibo. Ganun ba yun?
Meron pong ganon. Opo.
At merong hiring agency na napatunayan kayo na sinasabi at umamin sila.
Kasi nung na-discover po namin yung pamimeke, ang una naming question kung sino yung gumagawa. So based on evidence, nakita po namin yung mga liaison officers. Ang second question po namin is, alam po ba ito ng may-ari ng hiring agency? At yung kasagwat po ba sila? So far po, may isa po kaming case na nakita na ganun nga po ang lagay, na ininstructan daw po siya na wag nang mag-remit ng PhilHealth premiums.
Sarmiento added that due to the scheme, many OFWs were surprised upon knowing that they are not covered by the insurance despite the fact that they are paying their contribution dues.
So ito po, noong 2015, as much as 204,000 OFWs po ang hindi na-cover. By 2016, as much as 191,000 OFWs ang hindi po na-cover. By 2017, 149,000. OFWs po ito na umaasa na na-covered sila ng PhilHealth pero hindi po na-cover dahil po sa nangyayari. Nireport po namin to, wala po nangyari. After 3-4 years po of conducting fact-finding, wala pong outcome sa ad hoc committee, wala pong outcome na napakulong o na-apprehend, wala pong action doon sa 16 affidavit complaints na na-file. At ang nagawa lang naman po nila na persecute yung dalawa, na tanggal po ko at yung boss ko sa aming posisyon.
Natanggal ka sa PhilHealth? Natanggal ka doon sa area mo sa POEA?
Opo.
Dahil sa na-discover mo, natanggal ka?
Opo. Sa lahat po ng antas ng organisasyon namin, humihingi kami ng tulong. Wala pong nagbigay ng seryosong tulong sa amin.
In September of 2015, the scheme was reported at the PhilHealth office in the National Capital Region, where Dennis Mas was serving as the Vice President for NCR at that time. Mas is now the Senior Vice President for the Management Services Sector for PhilHealth.
Naalala mo, magmula pa nung nakaraang pagdinig, yung pattern na nagwawalang bahala kayo pagka ang pinag-uusapan ay yung pag-iingat sa pondo ng PhilHealth. Kaya ang tanong, may pakikita ka bang record sa akin na ikaw mismo naghabla ka, inusig mo, kung sino-sino ang dapat na usigin dito sa report ni Mr. Sarmiento?
Thank you for allowing me to reply, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. Ang PhilHealth kasi merong MOA sa National Bureau of Investigation na lahat ng mga fraudulent findings sa PhilHealth i-forward doon. Noong 2016, November,
Okay,
pinoward
ikaw bang
naman ng
nag-forward? Hindi,
President
kasi ang
and
tinatanong ko
CEO
sa iyo
PhilHealth
kung
sa
meron
NBI.
kang personal na initiative, pabayaan mo kung ano yung nangyari sa NBI. Ikaw ang sinusukat ko ngayon eh. Tinatanong kita sa sarili mo bilang ikaw ang noon ay Regional Vice President, may pakikita ka ba sa aming mga dokumento na ikaw mismo gumawa ka ng report, inusig mo ang ilang mga tao, maring nasa loob, maring nasa labas, para mapatunayan mo sa amin na capable ka na panindigan mo ang pangangalaga ng pondo ng PhilHealth? Anong dokumento ang pwede mong ibigay sa amin? Mapatunayan mo lang na talagang meron kang ginawa sapagkat wala ngang nademanda eh. Wala ngang nakulong eh.
Mr. Chairman, may functions sa bawat office. Dito sa case
Ikaw
na ito,
nga ang
wala ho, Mr. Chairman, kasi wala ho yung sa task ko.
Ibig mo sabihin ngayon wala kang pananagutan?
After almost a month of investigation, finally, the House panel tackling the issues over PhilHealth had wrapped up its investigation today. Next week, a submission of facts will take place regarding the matter. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
Commission on Appointment or CA on Wednesday has noted the nomination of Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay as Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP top chief after the latter firmly said that freedom of speech will not be curtailed in his recommendation that there should be regulation in social media in order to fight terrorism in the country. Margot Gonzalez has the news.
The Commission on Appointments or CA on Wednesday has approved the promotion and nomination of Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay as 4-star General.
The CA approved Gapay's promotion after the AFP Chief of Staff clarified that the military has no intention to curtail the right to free speech when he made a suggestion that social media should be regulated in order to combat terrorism. Senators earlier criticized Gapay's statement on August 3 when he recommended that regulation in social media should be included in the Implementing Rules and Regulations or IRR of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. But during the CA hearing, Gapay said that mechanisms on how to regulate the actions of terrorist groups on the internet is what he would push for.
We cannot regulate social media, but the actual act of committing violations of the newly passed Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, yun ang i-address, yun ang ipapanis as contemplated in the law.
Can the nominee confirm the statements and views of the chair of this committee and the views of this representation insofar as the parameters of regulating social media is concerned, as the nominee has repeatedly said? Those are the parameters that the chairman of this committee and this representation are referring to. Would the nominee confirm that statement and those parameters?
We do not intend to really curtail freedom of expression as guaranteed by our Constitution. And of course, we don't want to impose any or curtail or impose prior restraint to anybody. And what we are suggesting are the acts themselves should be regulated pertaining to really in combating terrorism. For example, those provisions enumerated in Section 10 of the 2020 Anti-Terror Act in inciting, planning, recruiting, and even securing financial and logistical resources and support by terror groups from domestic and foreign sources. And usually they do that, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, using the social media in the internet. And these groups, these terror cells are operating particularly in the dark web.
Gapay also revealed during the CA hearing that terrorists behind the recent Hulu-Sulu twin bombing had used the social media in order to solicit funds for the bombings.
The recent twin bombings in Hulu that have claimed numerous innocent lives and have seriously injured multiples of our innocent citizens is a testament to this. AFP intelligence and based on our experience have discerned that the group behind this violence uses social media to promote terrorism, recruit new members, solicit and generate financial, logistical, and material support from domestic and foreign sources.
Meanwhile, the Chief of Staff also answered queries about other national issues such as the Revolutionary Government or RevGov. Gapay firmly said that the AFP will not support RevGov as it will violate the Constitution.
Armed Forces of the Philippines do not support this movement and calling for a revolutionary government. And precisely because of the reason that it is unconstitutional and yes, we find it politically motivated and it will cause more harm than good at this point in time in our country.
Gapay also answered CA panel's questions about the Chinese incursions in the Philippine waters and the killings on the 4 Army intelligence officers in Sulu. Aside from Gapay, CA also confirmed the ad interim appointment of other 29 military officials. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
Malacanang on Wednesday said that it will push through its investment contracts with China and is also willing to set aside territorial issues surrounding South China Sea. Trisha Molina reports live. So, Trisha, what made the palace decide to honor its contracts with Chinese investors despite the United States' move to blacklist several Chinese firms involved in the reclamation works in the disputed territory?
Yes, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that the palace will honor its trade and investment contracts with China since it is already satisfied with the decision that the Philippines alone has sovereign rights over the West Philippine Sea and is the only country allowed to build structures in the disputed territory.
Roque said that the decision means that whoever built those artificial islands had no legal basis to do so, and an arbitral court has already ruled out against such activities. Roque was referring to the unanimous ruling of the Hague-based Permanent Court of Arbitration back in 2016, which ruled in favor of the Philippines and rejected China's 9-line claim as invalid and as no legal basis under the international law. The Philippines has also refused to follow the footsteps of the United States in banning Chinese companies that helped build artificial structures in the South China Sea. The United States has blacklisted at least 24 Chinese firms involved in the massive reclamation in the disputed territory. Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Wang Shilian, on the other hand, welcomed Malacanang's decision for letting Chinese firms freely conduct businesses in the Philippines. The palace spokesperson said that as long as the decision stands, then the Philippines can proceed with its contracts with China.
Roque pointed out that the country has to set aside the South China Sea issues for the meantime and instead focus on national interests such as completing the flood projects under the Duterte administration's Build, Build, Build program. Back to you, Val.
Thank you, Trisha Molina, for that live report. On the other hand, Makati government conducted pooled COVID-19 RT-PCR testing earlier today, and PUV tricycle and pedicab drivers as well as market vendors in the area are the very first recipients of the said testing procedure. This story from Paul Montebon.
At least 10,000 individuals will serve as beneficiaries for the pooled COVID-19 RT-PCR testing in Makati City, the very first LGU to use the procedure. According to Makati City Mayor Abby Binay, the result from the said testing could immediately help point confirmed cases in the city. Under the pooled testing method, one person from a group will be tested for COVID-19, and if the test yields positive result, everyone in that batch would then be tested individually. If the result is negative, the group will no longer need to be tested individually. Following this, recipients expressed concern, saying that their livelihood might be affected if they would actually test positive with the virus. TODA members in Makati now appealed that in case they would test positive of COVID-19 and will undergo quarantine, the local government should provide necessary needs for their families, just like what Mr. Ernesto, a tricycle driver, pointed.
Oo, malaking bagay po. Malaking bagay. Para protection sa bawat isa sa amin. Bawat sa pasahero namin, bawat mga sa bahay namin, na kumalaman kung may ka o wala. Ang apila ko lang po yung kung ilan araw na wala kaming biyahe. Tapos yung sana mabigyan lang kami ng kahit papano ng gobyerno. Tapos yun lang yung pero yung sabi na natatakot ako ganito, hindi ako natatakot.
Meanwhile, Mr. Benedict also voiced out the same concern in an interview with SMNI News team.
Sa pandemic na to kasi yung bayaran sa bahay, panggastos araw-araw. Siyempre, may 3 kang college. Tapos mag-online pa yan. Paano na yung load mo araw-araw? Sa 100, ilang gig lang naman sa 100. 3 sila gagamit. Wish ko ngayon, siyempre, yung mga kung makasakali mag-positive, mabigyan man lang kahit konting ayuda dun sa namin dahil siyempre yung pang araw-araw. Tulad niyan yung DSWD namin, hindi pa rin namin natatanggap hanggang ngayon. Kaya yun din ang iniabangan namin. Siyempre pag dumating yun, makakabawas kami ng bayad ng bahay kahit papaano. Ilang naman ang namin sa gobyerno na mabigay yung para sa amin.
Currently, the government provided them a gift check worth 1,000 pesos to be used for their daily necessities. On the other hand, alongside the Makati City LGU Philippine Children's Medical Center, Philippine Center for Entrepreneurship and BDO Foundation also sponsored the said pool testing. The said pooled RT-PCR testing will last until September 8. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
Panay Island in the Visayas grabs spot as the best travel destination for 2020 in the country. Paolo Mercado for the details.
According to the world's largest travel website, TripAdvisor, Panay Island ranks as the most visited Philippine destination. Panay Island is the only Philippine travel destination that made it on the 20th spot of the TripAdvisor's 2020 Traveler's Choice Awards as one of the popular destinations in Asia. Reviewers rank the country's 6th largest island based on the reviews and votes of the travelers gathered in the months prior to the pandemic. With the results that the site has published, Panay Island is a must-visit destination for 2021 when tourism might open anew. Panay Island is home of the world's renowned pristine beach, Boracay Island, which is situated in Aklan. Emerging best travel destinations also includes Gigantes Island in Iloilo Province. Antique also boasts of the mountains meeting the sea, giving a best panorama of the West Philippine coast at an altitude. Capiz, on the other hand, holds the title to its lone city as the seafood capital in the Philippines. The provinces in Panay Island has been preparing for the reopening of its travel destinations during the time of indefinite closure, hoping to give a safer and healthier travel experience to all the tourists after the pandemic. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Paulo Mercado, SMNI News.
Just recently, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio echoed the pronouncement of the Department of Transportation that the high-priority bus system will start its partial operations in November next year. Victoria Manaday for the story.
On Tuesday, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio said that the Department of Transportation will begin the operations of the high-priority bus system beginning November 2021. Duterte Carpio said that during the DOTR meeting where she was also present, Transportation Secretary Arthur Tugade reset the target date of the implementation from its original date of February 2022 to the last quarter of 2021. The mayor said that Tugade made the move to accelerate the pacing of the implementation of the high-priority bus system or HPBS operations, while the full operations is expected to begin in the first half of 2022. Despite this, she said that the Davao Integrated Bus System, or DIBS, has 6 routes and the initial direction are in Catalunan Grande going to downtown Davao City and the Carlos P. Garcia Highway going to the Philippine Ports Authority office in Sasa. Meanwhile, Duterte Carpio said the city is currently working on providing financial and other assistance to the affected drivers through the HPBS social compensation packages, which is composed of 5 packages, and the driver or the operator can choose 3 out of the 5 programs. The said program includes educational assistance, skills training, and cash for work assistance programs from the Department of Labor and Employment, Department of Trade and Industry, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, Commission on Higher Education, and the Department of Health, respectively. Mayor Sara Duterte sees the high-priority bus system as an effective measure to address the traffic congestion in the city. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Victoria Manaday, SM9 News.
With the looming opening of the Rojas Night Market, the tenants and suppliers of Rojas Night Market will need to undergo swab testing and should be tested negative for COVID-19 before they will be allowed to operate. Angelique Canada for the details.
Just recently, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio said that the tenants as well as the suppliers of the Rojas Night Market should be negative for COVID-19 before they will be allowed to operate in the night market once it reopens to the public. Speaking over the Davao City Disaster Radio on Tuesday, Duterte Carpio said that the city government will set a schedule to conduct swab tests to all the vendors, stall owners, suppliers, mashers, and even the security personnel who will be monitoring the night market. She added that the city's medical consultant, who is an infectious diseases specialist or IDS, told her that swabbing is only recommended to people who are scheduled to operate in the night market. Based on the previous pronouncements, the Rojas Night Market will only allow 25% of the total number of vendors and other workers to operate, where they will be operating in a 2-week shifting schedule. Duterte Carpio said that the vendors who are assigned on the later shift will also be tested days before their shift, since there is also a possibility that they might be exposed from the virus before their shifts. The city government has been preparing for the opening of the Rojas Night Market in late August after it was closed for the last 6 months due to the pandemic. The mayor initially said that the night market will resume by September 1, but was postponed. Despite the reopening of the Rojas Night Market, the Davao mayor stressed that strict health measures shall be imposed and must be observed, noting that the night market should adapt to the new normal. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Angelique Canada, SM9 News.
Up next, international news gathered by the SM9 News correspondents all over the world, only here at Newsline World.
Magandang araw po, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, Sir, at sa buong Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Binabati ko po kayong lahat ng happy 35th anniversary of the Passover. Maraming salamat po sa inyong mga dalangin na patuloy na gabayan ng may kapal ang ating buong bayan. Tulungan lang po tayo. Sino ba naman magtutulungan kundi tayo lang po, kapwa Pilipino. Muli, happy 35th anniversary and more power.
Congratulations to the 35th anniversary of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Warmest greetings to Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy and all the members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ as you celebrate your 35th founding anniversary. May your spirituality continue to deepen as you translate your thoughts and beliefs into concrete actions that will nurture your well-being. I wish that through your evangelical programs, you may inspire millions of your viewers across the globe to lead more meaningful lives. Let this occasion also serve as a source of hope for everyone, especially as we try to overcome this global pandemic. With your help, I am confident that we can heal our nation and overcome all trials ahead. A happy and momentous anniversary to all of you. Mabuhay!
We're back, and to continue from Asia, Japan vowed that it will provide long-term assistance to Mauritius. Natsumi Kojima files his report.
Japan's top spokesman on Wednesday said that the country will provide long-term assistance to help Mauritius cleaning up the oil spill that resulted from the grounding of a Japanese-owned freighter in July. Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga said that the said assistance will not only be limited to prevent the further spread of the oil or its removal, because Tokyo will also provide social and economic assistance. This, as Suga stressed, that the country wants to offer assistance in the medium to long term in those areas while cooperating with the countries involved. Earlier, the country sent disaster relief teams to Mauritius after the Panama flag bull carrier Wakashio ran aground off the Indian Ocean island nation, spilling more than 1,000 tons of oil into the pristine environment. The said incident prompted Mauritius to declare a state of environmental emergency on August 7, citing fears about the impact on endangered species such as birds and sea turtles. Currently, officials ban fishing activities off the coastal areas that are affected by the spill. 以上、日本から小島Natsumiニュースをお伝えしました。SMNA News Japan。
South Korea's prime minister is calling on the participation of the people in the fight against the coronavirus disease as the country enters its crucial week. Shelo Lee reports from Seoul.
On Wednesday, Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun said that this week marks a crucial watershed in South Korea's fight against the new coronavirus and asked the people to have patience over new strict social distancing rules. During the daily interagency meeting on anti-coronavirus measures, Chung said that this week will be a crucial watershed to determine the spread or plateau of COVID-19. This came after the country also imposed the 2.5 social distancing measures in Seoul, Gyeonggi Province, and Incheon respectively. He also noted that there are still violations of related regulations at such places as some churches, restaurants, and cafes. With this, he urged a concerted campaign against the virus so that efforts by many people won't be in vain. Chung emphasized that the Chuseok holiday, which is one of the nation's holiday season, shouldn't become another trigger for the spread of the virus. With this, he requested that the people's plan for the holidays with a top priority on the anti-virus efforts. The Prime Minister is also calling on to the striking medical doctors to return to their work immediately. Seoul, Isobugo, Shelo Lee Imnida, SMNA News, South Korea.
The Malaysian Ministry of Health announced concerns after expected the rise of COVID-19 imported cases. Jessica Lynn Henry for the details, live from Kuala Lumpur. Jessica, what concerns did the Malaysian Health Director express with the possibility of surge in COVID-19 cases during the last quarter of the year?
Yes, Val, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah, along with the research by the World Health Organization or WHO, said the predicted rise of COVID-19 cases will not only be in Malaysia, but also in America, Europe, and Southeast Asia during this coming winter. He also added that lung infection will most likely originated from airway diseases, especially during winter season. However, most of the COVID-19 cases in Malaysia recently reported from imported cases because they were infected abroad, even though they undergo mandatory quarantine upon entering the borders of Malaysia. Border controls will be continued and will be called for stricter controls after taking into consideration of the current situation. He advised the international border controls needs to be tightened further to be confirmed that the strengthened borders will not allow the spread of the COVID-19 virus coming from abroad to Malaysia. The government is planning 4 months ahead in case a possible spike of the infected cases coming from the winter season in Northern Hemisphere countries. Meanwhile, Val, Senior Minister Dato Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob announced new restrictions will take effect on coming September 7th and is applied to permanent residents, Malaysia My Second Home or My MM2H pass holders, spousal visa holders, foreigners and expatriates. Back to you, Val.
Thank you, Jessica, for that live report. Meanwhile, several airlines in Thailand have asked the country's prime minister to provide soft loans worth millions of dollars to local carriers affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Anissa de Guzman files this report.
The senior managers of 7 airlines in Thailand have petitioned Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha to provide $774 million or 24 billion baht in soft loans to help local carriers reduce the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister met with the executives from Bangkok Airways, Thai Air Asia, Thai Air Asia X, Thai Smile, Thai Lion Air, Thai Vietjet, and Nook Air on August 28. He also received a letter from the executives asking him to consider solutions that will help local carriers address the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak. Aside from the soft loans, the senior managers also requested for the government to extend a tax cut on aviation fuel and reduce fees, including airport landing fees and aircraft storage fees, which is set to expire in December. The airline executives has been asking for the government to provide those loans since April this year. In response to the said request, the country's prime minister said that the government will provide 24 billion baht in soft loans to the 7 domestic locals airlines and find more ways to assist their companies. Di siya Anissa de Guzman Rengan Chakpet Kasem Kuntep, Esmenay Kao Pratetay, Sawadika.
In Cambodia, the government called on to the public to remain cautious against the threat of COVID-19 pandemic as the Kanban Festival is fast approaching. Shana Bofatevi reports from Phnom Penh.
Just like what he did before the previous holiday, Prime Minister Hun Sen called on to the public once again to be extra careful against the threat of COVID-19 pandemic outbreak in the country as the Kanban Festival is about to take place beginning on Thursday. Kanban Festival is a 2-week holiday which will begin on September 3 in line with Conscious Chumban Festival, or Festival for the Dead, where people used to gather in pagodas for the celebration. It has been in practice that during this time, Khmer citizens tend to go to pagodas to offer foodstuffs to the monks, believing that monks will offer such offering to their ancestors. With this, Prime Minister wished for a safer holiday to all citizens and continued to remind everyone to adhere to the guidelines on safety imposed by the Ministry of Health. With the new reported cases of COVID-19 last Monday, the country records 274 total cases, of which 266 of them are fully recovered. Reka Parichin, Pen, Major Escobar, SMNI News, Kampuchea.
That's Mayjoy Escobar from Cambodia. Meanwhile, Japan is considering to join a global initiative which aims to guarantee equitable global access and fair distribution of future COVID-19 vaccines worldwide. Shaki Guzaki has the details live from Tokyo. Shah, how does Japan plan to support this international framework?
Yes, Val, the Japanese government is considering to financially support the development of 9 potential COVID-19 vaccines that are currently in the 2nd to 3rd stages of clinical trials.
The unique platform for this international cooperation is known as the COVAX Facility, or also referred to as the COVAX Pillar. COVAX Facility is basically a platform for pooled investments for the purpose of development, manufacture, and distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine. The vaccine pillar will be sourcing the funds from the middle to high-income countries involved in the program and will be provided to pharmaceutical companies that are helping to develop the COVID-19 vaccines. Once the vaccines are ready, COVAX is aiming to supply at least 2 billion doses worldwide and will cover 20% of the population of each participating country by the end of 2021. COVAX is a joint program co-led by 3 entities, which are the World Health Organization, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and Gavi, the Global Vaccine Alliance.
At this time, a total of 172 countries have entered an initial agreement with COVAX, while Japanese officials did not disclose how much they would invest for the international framework. Back to you, Val.
Thank you, Shah Kiguzaki, for that live report. On the other hand, in Ho Chi Minh City, farmers are adopting online selling amidst the pandemic as they reach a larger number of buyers and promote their products via Facebook. Chet Miller has the news.
Xin Chao. Farmers are now beginning to prosper as they transform the old way of selling into consumer-friendly channel. General Secretary of the Vietnam Digital Agricultural Association Nguyen Dak Tung expressed his views, saying that products that are directly offered to the buyers is most likely cheaper than the product being sold in a local market. The group also added that making business online helps the farmers enhance their skills in photography and communication in establishing trust to consumers. Due to the effect of the pandemic, many business establishments resort to online selling and seize opportunities to invest more into production, while farmers are also encouraged to create credibility online to meet the higher demand in the future. Dunay Daduk Bao Cao, Chet Miller, SM9 News, Vietnam.
In other news, the Hong Kong government on Wednesday said that it is considering extending the free coronavirus testing program for residents after thousands more signed up today. Nang Hinglum files this report.
With thousands of Hong Kong residents signing up for the free coronavirus testing, the government is planning to extend the program for 1 more week in an aim to test millions more in the region. Secretary for the Civil Service Patrick Nip said that they consider extending the free testing service into a 3rd week, as laboratories can test approximately 2 million samples in 1 week and 300,000 specimens in a day. The free testing service started on Tuesday and expected to last for 1 to 2 weeks, while government advisor hoped that a total of 4 million people will be tested with the help of medical staff from mainland China. Nip, however, said that the government will observe the program for 1 more day before deciding to extend the voluntary mass testing for 7 more days. He disclosed that 126,000 residents have given their specimen during the first day, while 710,000 more people have signed up on Wednesday. Some community centers are already fully booked for this week, while the government will be adding extra slots on several centers to meet the demand. A health worker union and several activists, however, urge the public to boycott the initiative, claiming that it is not effective and could be misused by the Chinese government to collect DNA samples and conduct surveillance. Hong Kong and Chinese authorities dismiss the critics, noting that it is only a smear campaign against the central government of China. Despite the criticisms, the Hong Kong and Chinese authorities have pushed to conduct the free testing program yesterday as a way to identify invisible patients and prevent the 3rd wave of infections in the Asian financial hub. Ngoai Meng Long, I Candy Seng, SM9 News Hong Kong, Poto.
In Myanmar, a recent research result worried officials about the fewer number of men's population in the country. Mark Escobar for the details live.
Yes, Val, the 2019 interim census, which ended in January this year, surprised the government as man's population decreases.
In the recent survey released by the Ministry of Labor, Immigration and Population on August 31, data showed that there are fewer men in the country, in which the annual growth rate is 0.88%, a little bit lower than 0.89% growth rate registered in the year 2014. The survey also revealed that an increased number of older people from 4 out of every 100 in 1983 to 6 or 7 in 2019. Likewise, a decline in the number of people aged 0-14 from 38 per 100 people to 27, and dependents from 73 per 100 people to 50 of the same year. Furthermore, Deputy Minister of Labor, Immigration and Population Yu Min-kaing added that if the birth rate will continue to fall, the country will expect to experience labor shortage and have more elderly people in the next 10 years.
Val?
Yes, Mark, what does the Department of Population see as the cause of the decline in men's population in Myanmar?
Yes, Val, the result of the said survey does not reflect the effect of pandemic caused by COVID-19. As to Dao Kaing-so, director of the Department of Population, explained that one probable cause of the decline was that more men are going abroad to look for a greener pasture. Back to you, Val.
Thank you, Mark, for that live report. Lao Telecommunications has formally launched its 5G network, the first of its kind in the country. Mek Vang Xiong for the details.
Sabay di, while 4G network was currently being used all over the country of Lao, Lao Telecom has officially introduced the 5th generation cellular network technology, which is said to offer speeds 100 times faster than 4G. The inauguration ceremony was attended by the Minister of Posts and Telecommunications, Dr. Tansamay Kamasut, and the Director General of Lao Telecom, Supon Chantavisay, together with other related senior ministers and officials. Lao Telecom states in a press conference that most of the countries around the globe have already started the 5G technology. It creates better service to the civilization in the part of e-commerce, robotics, internet-related matters, and artificial intelligence. It will also support the industry, agriculture, and medicine sector of the country. The first phase of the service was in some part of Vientiane capital, which includes Chantabuli district and adjacent to the National University of Lao. Then it will be followed by the second phase, which covers the main provinces of the country. According to the telecom operator, the 5G system in Lao would be serious to guarantee the integration with the national framework. Also, 5G is expected to support new applications like remote medical procedures and autonomous driving. The Lao government makes extra effort to speed up the introduction of 5G technology in a view that technology is a vital tool to enhance socio-economic development and take part with regional and international standards. Butlangen, Common Yivinchen, Patat Lao, Common Laiken, Mek Vang Siong, SMNI News, Lao.
Earlier today, Japan's ruling political party disclosed that they will be conducting a presidential election in the coming weeks to choose the successor of resigned Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Ria Saito tells us more.
Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party announced on Wednesday that it will hold a presidential election this coming September 14 to choose Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's successor. Abe's longtime right-hand man and Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshihide Suga is seemingly on course to secure about 70% of votes from fellow lawmakers. The race for the LDP top post will begin on September 8, where the victor will be appointed as the country's new prime minister at a parliamentary session that is likely to take place on September 16. The newly elected leader will serve the remainder of Abe's term as the president of the party through September 2021. Aside from Suga, there are two other contenders in the election, including former Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida and former Defense Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who announced their candidacies on Tuesday. Ijo, Nihon kara Saito Ria News o tsutashimashita. SMNI News, Japan.
And from the Middle East, in aid to the flood-affected Pakistan, United Arab Emirates has donated 4 million dirhams worth of urgent assistance. Rinel Reyes for the details.
The Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan Foundation has donated 4 million dirhams in urgent assistance to those in southern Pakistan affected by flash floods. It can be remembered that on August 23, Sunday, heavy rains have hit parts of Pakistan, including the financial capital of Karachi, for a fifth straight night, bringing further flooding to towns and villages and leaving at least 36 people dead. In aid to this, the relief team from the Khalifa Foundation distributed supplies including drugs, tents, blankets, and formula for babies to some 75,000 people in Sindhi's southern regions. The assistance continues the funding and growth programs of the foundation in many countries around the world. The donation comes in implementation of the directives of the President, His Highness Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, with the support of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Deputy Supreme Commander of the UAE Armed Forces, and the supervision of Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Presidential Affairs and President of the Foundation. Takriron min Abu Dhabi, kan hada Rinel Reyes Akbara, SMNI, Al Emirat, Al Arabiyat, Al Mutahida.
Road and Transport Authority announced that instead of paper certificates, Dubai motorists will receive e-certificates when they register their vehicles. Jonathan Akobo for the report.
Marhaba, Dubai motorists will no longer receive paper certificates when they get their vehicle tested for registration. This was after Road and Transport Authority announced that e-certificates will be issued instead and will be emailed to customers. The move was part of Dubai paperless strategy that was initiated by Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Crown Prince of Dubai. This will make the process more convenient and cost-efficient. The said strategy aims to transform Dubai government into a fully digital one in just a couple of years. Moreover, the said measure would also help prevent the spread of COVID-19 into Emirate. تجلب الأخ المزيد من التحدي أتكرر من دبي كندا جنرال كوبو SMNI News United Arab Emirates.
Israeli authority has ordered schools under red cities to remain closed until further notice. Shmuel Eden reports from Tel Aviv.
Shalom לכל הצופים. Israel is set to open its school year starting today as planned. In line with the opening of schools, the Israeli authority has ordered those schools which are located in red cities to remain closed as the risk of the COVID-19 infection is very high. According to the Education Ministry of the country, at least 30 million new Israeli shekel were provided for their academic reopening. This includes the procurement of protective gear for kindergarten and elementary school teachers who teach first and second grades. On the other hand, the National Parents Association head Miron Shif said that they are aware that not all the problems concerning the reopening of schools were solved. Furthermore, they continue to work with all those involved to find practical solutions to the near future. Bebrachot Shavua Naim, reporting from Tel Aviv, this has been Shmuel Eden, SMNI News, Israel.
Up next, more news from SMI correspondents coming from Europe, South and Central America when Newsline World returns.
My warmest greetings to Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy and the whole congregation of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ as you celebrate your 35th founding anniversary. May the Almighty Father bless the work of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ through you, Pastor Apollo, as you continue to propagate and proliferate your life-changing message throughout the world. Happy anniversary and mabuhay!
Hello, happy 35th anniversary of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Happy anniversary, Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. Happy celebration. I'm sure the faithfuls of that Kingdom of Jesus Christ are very happy today for having you as the leading religious pastor and son of God. Congratulations.
Happy 35th anniversary, Pastor Kiboloy. Alam niyo po, sa panahon ng COVID, kinakailangan po talagang itaguyod natin ang pananampalataya sa Panginoon at yan naman pong ginagawa ng inyong ministry. Sana po umabot pa kayo hanggang 350 years na anibersaryo. And God bless to you and to the rest of your ministry. Happy anniversary po muli.
Binabati ko po si Pastor Apollo Kibuloy at lahat ng miyembro ng Kingdom of Jesus Christ on its 35th anniversary. Mabuhay po kayo.
Malugod ko pong binabati ang Kingdom of Jesus Christ sa inyong ika-35 taong anibersaryo ng pagkakatatag. Nagahandom ako nga padayon nga makadawat og grasya ang bansang kaharian sa daghang pang umaabot nga katuigan gikan sa atong amang makagagahon. Dalangin ko po sampunang aking pamilya na ang lahat ng kingdom leaders at kingdom citizens, lalong-lalo na sa kanyang hinirang at piniling anak na si Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, na patuloy na lukubin ng mga biyaya at bagong kalakasan upang patuloy na makapaghatid na mabuting mensahe sa sangkatauhan para sa tunay na kaligtasan. Dugang na akong pangamuyo, pinaagi sa kanyang hinirang na anak, nga mukaylap pa ang buluhaton sa atong Ama sa Pilipinas ug tibuok kalibutan. Ito po ang inyong Kabsec Carlo Nograles na nakikiisa sa inyong pagdiriwang sa mahalagang araw na ito. Mabuhay po kayo.
Privilege to join Pastor Apollo Kibuloy and the entire flock of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ on this very auspicious celebration. For a Christian church like yours, 35 years may not be too long, but the milestone that you have attained in enriching the Christian spirit speak well of the depth of the faith that guided the church to where it is today. From a small group of followers in September 1985, Pastor Kibuloy was able to nurture the church and led its phenomenal growth, not only in numbers, but more importantly, the strong belief in Christ that He has instilled among the members. There is no better time to celebrate the Church's 8th anniversary of spiritual service to humanity than now, that even a pandemic of this magnitude cannot stop the Kingdom of Jesus Christ from leading its people to salvation. May your church reap further victories in countering the frailties of the worldly order for the benediction of your brethren. May Pastor Kibuloy be endowed with greater power and strength to guide the flock to the promised land. Pastor Apollo Kibuloy, happy 35th anniversary to you and to the Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
Magandang araw po, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, Sir, at sa buong Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Binabati ko po kayong lahat ng happy 35th anniversary of the Passover. Maraming salamat po sa inyong mga dalangin na patuloy na gabayan ng may kapal ang ating buong bayan. Magtulungan lang po tayo. Sino pa naman magtutulungan kung hindi tayo lang po, kapwa Pilipino. Muli, happy 35th anniversary and more power.
Happy 35th anniversary of the Feast of the Passover of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. I would like to extend my heartfelt felicitations to Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy for his exceptional leadership and service to the members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Mabuhay po kayo at pagtubayan tayo ng buong may kapal.
My warmest
greetings to the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name, led by Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy. As you celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Feast of the Passover, may the celebration remind us to hold fast to our faith despite the uncertainty of times, and may the congregation be blessed with peace, prosperity, and togetherness. Maraming salamat po.
To Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, appointed leaders of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ congregation and all members of the Kingdom Nation listening to this message physically and virtually, a pleasant day to all of you. Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Ito po si Senator Francis Tolentino. Let me start by offering you my congratulations to the Kingdom of Jesus Christ as you celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Feast of the Passover. It is indeed a privilege to be addressing your millions of followers in the Philippines and all over the world on this momentous occasion. Pastor Kibuloy's successful leadership of his ministry cannot be matched. To this day, your spiritual congregation continues to be fruitful all over the world as we see the Kingdom ministry achieve great things through divine blessings. Through the years, it has provided spiritual sustenance to its members, enabling them to reach their potentials. Now more than ever, we see the importance of ministry and shared faith in facing the everyday challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to congratulate the members of the Kingdom Nation and your resilient leader, Pastor Kibuloy, my good friend, for doing well in loving one another and being each other's keeper, especially during this difficult period. Again, it is an honor to be celebrating with you today virtually. Happy 35th anniversary of the Feast of the Passover of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. And here's more years of spiritual service centered in spreading the message of faith and enlightenment and salvation. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. Ito po si Senator Francis Tolentino. Daghang salamat.
We'd like to greet Pastor Apollo Kibuloy and the Kingdom of Jesus Christ a happy 35th anniversary, all the followers and members of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. God bless, and we need guidance, especially in this difficult time, and we need to listen to the word of the Lord and make time for the Lord. Happy anniversary po, mabuhay po kayo.
Happy 35th anniversary to the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name, and especially sa ating pong kasama, Executive Pastor, Reverend Dr. Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy, and to all the Kingdom of Nation. Mahigit isang dekada na pong nakaraan nung ako po'y tumakbo para pagka-senado, si Pastor Kibuloy po hindi nagdalawang isip. Ako po'y kanyang tinulungan sa aming pamalalakad. Kami po'y kanyang ginabayan. And for all that, Pastor Kibuloy, maraming salamat. At sa patuloy po niyong ginagawa para sa ating bansa, sa lahat ng inyong kinasasakupan, for the progress, the peace of our country. Thank you so much, Pastor Kibuloy, and to the Kingdom Nation.
It is my sincerest pleasure to greet the millions of followers of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ as you celebrate an important milestone since the founding of the congregation in 1985. I would like to thank Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy for this opportunity and congratulate him along with the church members as you continue to share, live, and grow your faith with the peoples of the world, and most especially the Filipino people for the past 35 years. The Kingdom of Jesus Christ, through Pastor Kibuloy, has been an active partner of the public sector, including that of the Department of National Defense, where I belong, in community-oriented activities and projects that benefit the public and our stakeholders. These valued initiatives include that of tree planting activities that aim for a cleaner, greener, and healthier environment for veteran patients of the Veterans Memorial Medical Center, and broadcast promotions of the department's flagship programs, to include that of the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program, or ECLIP, through its Task Force Balikloob, aired through DZAR Sunshine Radio Station. Since the founding of the church 35 years ago, the members have been involved in various aid initiatives, to include that of non-member organizations, communities, individuals who are non-members. This is a testament to the church's genuine commitment to serve those in need regardless of background. Now, as we thrive under the new normal, it is a challenge for all of us to continue preserving our religious practices and traditions, which significantly involve mass gatherings and assemblies. But I hope this health crisis will not dishearten you, but rather it will strengthen your faith, because it is through faith that we can overcome this pandemic or this crisis. To Pastor Kibuloy, congratulations. I wish you all the best and more fruitful years of sharing your faith with the peoples of the world and the Filipino people. Happy 35th anniversary, Pastor, and the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Please stay healthy. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
We're back, and still from the Middle East, on Qatar's COVID-19 update, the country has recorded 216 new cases with 1 death in the last 24 hours. Ronel Mirabel for the report.
Assalamualaikum. On Tuesday, Qatar's Ministry on Public Health reported the discovery of 216 new cases of coronavirus infections, bringing the country's cumulative COVID-19 infection count to 118,994. Meanwhile, the ministry said in its most recent updates of the virus that another death has been confirmed and was identified to be an 81-year-old man. With this, the overall death toll increases to 198. Also, the ministry announced that 228 people who were infected recovered from the virus, taking the total number of cases recovered to 115,895. There are 2,901 active cases, including 389 patients under medication that are in a critical condition and 65 other patients under intensive care. Over the last 24 hours, the overall PCR test carried out by the country climbed to 634,745 after another 4,914 people were screened for COVID-19. Alta Carrero min Aldawa Canhada, Ronel Marabel, SMNI News, Qatar.
And from Europe, Health Minister of Spain revealed that the country will participate in clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccine that was developed by a U.S. multinational company, Johnson & Johnson. Bluzette Guzman files his report.
Spain revealed that clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccine will start imminently in the country. The clinical trials will be carried out by a U.S. multinational company, Johnson & Johnson, and was authorized by Spain's Agency for Medicine and Health Products. The said clinical trials will involve 190 healthy volunteers and will be held across 3 Spanish hospitals. According to Health Minister Salvador Illa, the ministry is now looking for possible volunteers for the said trials. However, volunteers must be between ages 18, 55, and over 65. This will be the second phase of the said clinical trial, as the first phase has been carried out in the U.S. and in Belgium. Leyendo las últimas noticias actuales desde aquí. Esta Bluzette Guzman, SMNI News, Spain.
India and Russia set a close deal for over 6 Laka 203 rifles. This report.
The long-term AK-203 rifles deal with Russia under make in India has been finalized, and before the signing process, the print has heard a final contract is being legally reviewed by both sides. According to sources in the defense and security establishment, by the end of this year, the production of the over 6 LAKH rifles will begin, and that they will have export potential. Under the contract, the first 20,000 AK-203 rifles will be imported from Russia at a cost of approximately $1,100 or 80,000 rubles one piece, depending on the conversion rate. The remaining arms are to be produced in India as part of a joint venture, Indo-Russia Rifles Private Limited, set up between the Indian Ordnance Factory Board, OFB, Kalashnikov Concern, and Rosoboron Export Military Export State Agency. Although OFB holds a 50.5% stake in the joint venture, Kalashnikov holds 42% and Rosoboron Export 7.5%. The cost of these make rifles in India would be a little less than it would cost the important ones, the sources said, refusing to go into detail. The deal was first revealed in 2018 in the midst of considerable optimism, but encountered a roadblock over price disputes, with the OFB citing a price higher than the Russian product due to the extra hours it would take and other issues. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defense had also set up a committee to break the log jam. The delay had forced the Army to order US-based SIG 716 rifles under a fast-track procedure to arm its frontline troops. The Army is now seeking emergency procurement of another 72,000 with 72,000 SIG rifles already produced. On 13 August, the print announced that the development of AK-203 has become a top priority for the government of Narendra Modi and that every effort is being made to get it going quickly. С вами была Марина Яцук, новости СМНI Россия.
Minimum wage and pension in Ukraine starts to increase on September 1. Reina Arpon tells us more from Odessa.
In Ukraine, Minimum wage and minimum pension were increased from September 1. President Volodymyr Zelensky signed law on changes to Ukraine's law on the 2020 Ukraine State Budget number 822 on August 29, which was proved by Parliament at an extraordinary meeting on August 25th. The minimum wage from September 2020 has been raised to 5,000 Ukrainian hryvnia per month. Besides, the increase is the first stage of the process of the gradual increase. The second step will be an increase from 2021 to 6,000 Ukrainian hryvnias, while the minimum wage is expected to increase to 6,500 Ukrainian hryvnia in 2021. At the same time, taking into account the growth, on August 26, the Cabinet of Ministers decided to increase the size of a public sector official salary tariff rate as of September 1, 2020. З вами була Рейна Арпон. Новини СМН, Одеса, Україна.
Belgium had lost 100 square meters of its territory to Netherlands after a survey showed that the Belgian-Dutch border had not been maintained correctly since 1843. Emanuela Anwadi reports from Brussels.
After being historically inaccurate, Belgium lost 100 square meters of its territory to the Netherlands after following a realignment in the border. Construction workers on Belgium municipality of Essen started removing black and yellow bricks that marked the said Belgium-Dutch border. The line was moved 1.80 meters towards the south that resulted to downsizing of Essen with 100 square meters. Meanwhile, the said construction work is expected to be finished by the 1st of September. However, authorities clear that correction does not mean that some Belgium will be living on Dutch territory, though on social welfare center of the municipality of Essen is now partially located at Netherlands. Furthermore, the move came after a survey showed that the border had not been maintained correctly since 1843. Report pour Bruxelles, c'était Emmanuel Ngwande, SMNI, Belgium.
As Sweden allows schools and universities to open, the country's health agency also issued new guidelines for COVID-19 testing for school children. This report from Kirby Trindad.
Health authorities here in Sweden recently issued new guidelines for children with regards to coronavirus testing, saying that they need to get tested if they are showing the symptoms of the virus. The country's public health agency just recently released the new guidelines for healthcare providers, infectious disease units, laboratories, as well as regional decision makers. The health agency recommended that if there are local increase in COVID-19 cases in their areas, children who are in primary or high school or even nursery school kids should be tested if they're showing some symptoms of the disease. These symptoms include cough or fever, sore throat, difficulties breathing, muscle ache, runny nose, black nose, and headache. Moreover, symptoms such as diarrhea and vomiting are more common in children than adults. If they test negative, officials should allow the children to return to school, even with mild symptoms, as long as they are well. If they test positive, they should stay at home and follow the same guidelines as adults. If no test has been carried out, the child needs to stay at home for at least 2 days after they are symptom-free. However, if a child has lingering mild symptoms a week after they fell ill, they may also return to school. Under the same guidelines, school-aged children and teenagers should be tested to the same extent as adults, while nursery school children under 6 years old should primarily stay at home unless there is a local outbreak. Det här är det senaste nyheterna just nu. Reportera härifrån Skåne, det här är Kirby Trinidad för SMN Nyheter i Sverige.
Meanwhile, a migrant boat burst into flames off southern coast of Italy. Sunshine Smith from Milan has the details.
A vessel carrying refugees has burst into flames off the northern coast of Italy. This took place when the passengers were being transferred to an Italian naval vessel that would take them to port. At least 3 people were confirmed dead, and the 3 also were missing at sea, while 6 people suffering from serious burn injuries are in hospital, including 2 Italian officials who were helping transferring people of the boat. The cause is most likely to be a fuel leakage that has been followed with the explosion. As of now, the total number of victims is still uncertain. An investigation plane has been checking around sea in search for survivors. Portando le nuove notizie. Sono Sunshine Smith, SMN News, Italia.
EU Trade Commissioner Phil Hogan resigns after violating Ireland's COVID-19 restrictions. Sarah Santos reports from London.
Trade Commissioner Phil Hogan resigned on Wednesday, a week after violating Ireland's restrictions on coronavirus by attending a golf event with 80 other people. On August 19, Hogan attended the Political Golf Society event at a hotel in Galway, a town in the west of Ireland, a day after the Irish government implemented new COVID-19 restrictions. Down from the previously authorized number of 50, one of the new rules implement the reduction of 6 people in an indoor event. This was violated when Hogan attended the event with 80 other people. In a statement on Wednesday, he said he strongly regretted his trip to Ireland and admitted that the controversy was becoming too disruptive and his role in the upcoming Brexit talks will be undermined. His comment came out after sparking controversy on social media due to his actions in the said event. Hogan said in his resignation statement on Wednesday that he had always tried to comply with all the relevant COVID-19 regulations in Ireland and understood that he had met all the relevant public health guidelines, especially after confirming a negative COVID-19 test. Meanwhile, in his statement, he also reiterated his heartfelt apology to the Irish people. Reporting from London, England, this has been Sarah Santos, SMNI News, United Kingdom.
President Jair Bolsonaro announced that nobody will be forced to take the vaccine for COVID-19 once it is developed. Chris Aklo in this report.
Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who has consistently downplayed the COVID-19 and its severity, said that nobody will be forced to take the vaccine against the fatal disease once it is developed.
The statement came after the government earmarked millions of dollars for the purchase and future production of vaccinations as Brazil suffers the second worst outbreak of the pandemic next to the United States. It can be remembered that the federal government signed a provisional decree that allows the release of 1.9 billion reais for the purchase of 100 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine and to allow the local production of the said drug. Meanwhile, Sao Paulo state government is also working on a potential vaccine with China's Sinovac Biotech SVA.0. Brazil hopes to distribute the vaccine beginning next year.
Brazil has become a hotspot of coronavirus disease in the recent months, with 3,950,931 confirmed cases and 122,596 deaths. Eu sou Chris Aklo, reportando de Brasília, esse foi o SMNI News, Brazil.
The Ministry of Health is allocating 260 million Brazilian real to states and municipalities for the expecting mothers during the pandemic. David Lira on this report.
The Ministry of Health will transfer 260 million reais to states and municipalities to expand care for pregnant and postpartum women during the health crisis caused by COVID-19.
The funds is part of the Health Pregnancy and Puerperian Support Plan launched last Friday. The measure aims to ensure adequate care in monitoring women with suspected COVID-19 symptoms. For the Secretary of Primary Health Care, Rafael Parente, early diagnosis is important for pregnant women to receive the appropriate treatment according to the degree of the condition. They are vulnerable to infections and therefore care must be continuous. The additional transfer will be made to the municipalities by each family health team with registered pregnant women. 800 reais will be the amount per family. The Ministry of Health will pass on an additional 10,000 reais to the houses of expecting mothers and postpartum women.
The Ministry of Health will also make available the Manual of Recommendations for the Assistance of Pregnant Women and Postpartum Women to guide health professionals in managing the expecting moms during the pandemic. Reportando de Brasília, eu sou David Lira e esse foi o SMNI News Brasil.
Meanwhile, the Honduran authority has placed 7 departments under green alert due to the tropical storm Nana. This report from Araclara.
The Permanent Contingency Commission of Honduras has issued an order to place 7 of its departments under green alert for the next 48 hours due to tropical storm Nana.
According to forecasts, the tropical storm Nana will pass near the Honduras coast. Departments affected of the alert are Gracias a Dios, Colon, Atlantida, Islas de la Bahia, Cortez, Olancho, and Yoro. Meanwhile, based on the report of Center of Atmospheric, Oceanic, and Seismic Studios, tropical storm Nana was found in the Caribbean Sea in the south of the island of Jamaica. Nana is the 14th tropical storm that hit Honduras.
And of which 4 of them became hurricane. Reportando para Noticias del Mundo, esta ha sido Aramay Calara, SMNA News, Honduras.
Tourists in Puerto Vallarta in Jalisco State of Mexico will need 5 years to recover from the impact of COVID-19. Mark Hong for the details.
According to the local head of the Mexican Employer Federation, Puerto Vallarta Tourism and Jalisco State need 5 years to recover from the COVID-19. Data shows that 3,762 tourism sector workers have lost their jobs and only 862 were able to return working, and at least 40 hotels are still closed until now. In line with this, local establishment in Vallarta is urging the government to devise new strategies that would help them cope up with their losses. They are also afraid of the risk of tourism extinction if the pandemic will continue to roll. On 2019, tourism in Puerto Vallarta was able to earn 42 billion pesos or $1.9 billion in the economy of Pacific Coast Resort City. Esta ha sido Marcong reportando para SMNA Noticias del Mundo, Mexico.
Up next, more news gathered by the SMNA USA and Canada correspondents when Newsline World returns. We're back, and to continue, according to Alberta government forecast, the throes of a deterioration economy due to COVID-19 pandemic are projected to delay migration into Alberta in the coming years. Jeremy Pachon tells us more.
Provincial data was released detailing demographic estimates for Alberta between 2020 and 2046. Government research predicts net migration to be significantly lower compared with the recent past, with annual average growth of just 0.9% between 2019 and 2020. They expect net migration to Alberta will decrease from 43,460 last year to 36,000 due to COVID-19 travel restriction. It will possibly slow much more in 2021 and will stay low in 2022. But officials say economic growth will pick up between 2023 and 2027, triggering upward trend in interprovincial migration and rising overall levels of immigration. The dual effects of the decline in oil prices in early 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic has had a negative effect on the province's economic outlook. As a result, the economy is expected to contract by 2020 before starting to recover by 2021. Significant declines in jobs in Calgary in 2015 and 2016 due to the global oil price shock contributed to an influx of interprovincial migrants, though net migration remained positive. It later rebounded, but due to the current oil prices, the city is likely to see a decline again. Alberta is expected to add nearly 2 million people by 2046 to hit a population of 6.3 million. That represent a 1.4% of average growth annual rate. Development will focus on urban centers such as Calgary and Edmonton. It will become more diverse as the province continues to draw new inhabitants. Data indicates that people from outside Canada would account over time for 54% for the projected rise. This will also be related to federal immigration policies. Sila novel d'ici ang Calgary Alberta, Jaswidja ki may pasyon pour la report, SMNI News, Canada.
Ontario tackles the province response to the coming second wave of COVID-19. The details of this report from Nina Baranda.
Ontario public health officials stated that a second lockdown might take place after the inevitable second wave of the coronavirus. Toronto Medical Officer of Health Dr. Aileen Davila detailed the efforts being undertaken by Toronto Public Health to prepare for a second wave. She said that while there is no way to know what will happen exactly in the months ahead, but the experiences of other jurisdictions does suggest that some resurgence in Toronto is inevitable. In fact, cases may already be creeping upwards. Earlier this month, Toronto's 7-day rolling average of new cases hit a recent low of 15.9, but since then it has ticked steadily back up and now stands at 35. Davila said that as part of the plans to limit any second wave, Toronto Public Health will be deploying community outreach rapid response teams. Levels of infections have been observed. She said that staff are also working with provincial government specifically to centralize decision-making, including a strategic command table that meets weekly and a personal protective equipment task force. Looking ahead, the city's COVID-19 response prioritizes, number 1, implement public health measures, 2nd, support vulnerable populations, 3rd, support city employees, 4th, mitigate the impact to Toronto's economy, and 5, ensure the resilience of the city's services and coordinated response. As of now, the province is broadening its support for healthcare workers. This is Nina Baranda, SMNI News, Canada.
Though Saskatchewan restaurants are coping better than the national average, it might still face the same grim reality as with more than half of all Canadian restaurants. Amor Lobante has the details.
Showing more than half of all Canadian restaurants could be forced to close down before the year ends, and restaurants in Saskatchewan are not immune. Although Benz predicts Saskatchewan will see fewer restaurants close their doors based on recent surveys, it stated that margins are extremely thin for many. Saskatchewan have done an exceptional job flattening the curve and hoping that people will get more confidence and get back out there. A Statistic Canada survey showed that 29% of accommodation food service businesses cannot operate at all due to social distancing. Another 31% will only be able to remain operational for up to 90 days with the current condition. That means Canada could see 6 out of 10 restaurants go out of business by November. Werschler also added that sales is only up to 70% compared to last year. It's largely due to takeout and delivery platforms along with outdoor patios. Some of the branches are kept afloat by the government program, and as those dry up and as the weather changes, those volumes will go down. As a result, the Chamber of Commerce in more than 60 restaurant brands launched the Our Restaurant campaign. It's calling on both the government and public to come together to support their local restaurants. Reporting from Saskatchewan, this has been Amor Lobante, SMNI News, Canada.
Masks became mandatory in Winnipeg transit buses and inside city-owned buildings. Agnes Camus for the details.
Masks became mandatory in Winnipeg transit buses and inside city-owned buildings, and most transit riders are on board. People wait for the bus to arrive in Winnipeg on August 29. That day, masks become mandatory on city buses and city-owned buildings. Carla Parquarson started wearing a mask as a transit user before the rules were mandated. I believe you're protecting others around you when you wear your mask, said. Masks are also mandatory in Winnipeg Transit Plus and for anyone going into any city-run facilities, including City Hall, recreation and leisure facilities, libraries, and administrative buildings starting Saturday. Not everyone is happy about face coverings becoming mandatory in more spaces in the city. An anti-mask protest was held at the Manitoba Legislature on Saturday, calling on the government to respect their freedom of choice to not wear a mask. On Saturday, 2 anti-mask protests was held in the city. Kelly Mitchell organized a Hugs Over Mask rally at the Manitoba Legislature, which he says was done in conjunction with other similar rallies in call for governments to respect people's freedom to not wear masks if they choose. Not everybody agrees with mask mandates and we have a right to choose for ourselves, she said, over a bullhorn to a crowd of about 50 people. Meanwhile, across town, a group of 30 to 40 protesters outside the superstores in Regent Avenue yelled, "Our freedom is essential," and called on shoppers to boycott the store over its mandatory mask policy. As the protesters circled the parking lot, disrupting traffic, some shoppers could be heard yelling insults at the anti-maskers and laughing at them. Deputy Mayor Marcus Chambers, who represents St. Norbert and St. River, says the debate around masks is polarizing. Residents in my ward have asked for the city to mandate masks on public transportation, while others are very much adamant that they won't wear a mask in public spaces, he said. Public health officials say masks aren't the only defense against COVID-19. They should be used properly, and in addition to physical distancing, hand hygiene, and staying home when sick. Reporting from Winnipeg, Manitoba, this is Agnes Camus, SMNI News, Canada.
The city of Vancouver will reopen indoor pools in September. The details from Marina Yunkina.
Last Friday, the Vancouver Park Board announced the reopening of 8 out of 9 indoor swimming pools under the new safety and cleaning protocols. 4 swimming pools are expected to reopen in mid-September and another 4 in mid-October. Kensington Pool will not reopen because the city says that facility is too small to allow safe physical distance between the swimmers. Indoor pools will offer designated lap and public swimming sessions, as well as reserved training sessions for sport organizations. Admission will be managed through an online reservation system and in-person drop-ins. Pools and change rooms will operate with a reduced capacity, and staff will be required to wear personal protective equipment while on duty. In between the swimming sessions, pools will be sanitized and prepared for the next group. Amongst the other changes that swimmers can expect are wider lanes for land swimming, arrow signs, and new procedures for accessing change rooms, pools decks, and pool entry and exit. Snorkeling will not be permitted in the pools. Neither will there be towels, goggles, and kickboards available to rent. Camille Dumont, chairman of Vancouver Board of Park and Recreation, believes that staff working in those facilities have done an excellent job for safe resumption of swimming in the city. This has been Maria Yunkina, SMNI News, Canada.
Meanwhile, the Costa Rican Authority has modified its alert level to its different cantons. This report from Corina Villa.
The National Emergency Commission of Costa Rica implemented changes to its coronavirus alert levels in several cantons.
The National Emergency Commission of Costa Rica implemented changes to its coronavirus alert levels in several cantons. This takes effect today, September 2. Cantons in Heredia and San Jose Province under orange alert will be moved to more relaxed yellow alert. This includes the cantons of Belen, San Isidro, Escazú, and Puriscal. Meanwhile, cantons of Poas, Rio Cuarto, the district of Pital in San Carlos, Barva, and Vasquez de Coronado will be shifted to more restrictive orange alert. This means business establishments under orange alert should impose stricter biosecurity measures until September 9.
But NEC clarified that driving restrictions in the aforementioned cantons will not be affected until Esnacido Corina Villa para Escuela Noticias, Costa Rica.
In other news, here are the updates. In the United States, school reopening and political tensions due to the vaccine development as the coronavirus pandemic drags on. Dana Nuki files this report.
7 months into the pandemic, the United States has seen more than 6 million citizens sickened and more than 180,000 lives lost due to the virus. Now, more schools are reporting new cases among students, and more Americans are convinced that the vaccine approval process is being driven by politics than science. These are the updates. The University of Iowa reported that more than 900 students are infected with the coronavirus. More than a third of these cases have been identified just since Friday last week. In addition, 13 employees have received positive results. The university had its first day of in-person classes last Monday. Furthermore, almost 80 students who live in residence halls are in self-isolation after testing positive, and 17 are in self-quarantine after potentially being exposed. The rise in cases has not stopped the federal government from calling for the reopening of schools across the country. Universities and colleges are now grappling with the increasing number of cases in dormitories and residences within their campuses. Meanwhile, responding to the coronavirus has become one of the core issues in the political race, as candidates have offered differing perspectives on the matter. 4 vaccine candidates are in clinical trials in the United States, with one from Moderna being furthest along. But proof of the efficacy of the vaccines remains to be seen. On the other hand, a survey conducted by media company Stat and the Harris poll revealed that 78% of Americans are worried that the process of approving a vaccine for the coronavirus is more about politics than science. Meanwhile, Dr. Deborah Birx of the White House Coronavirus Task Force said that people shouldn't wait for a vaccine to do the right thing in stopping the community spread of the virus. As is, health experts and officials continue to urge that simple preventive measures are the key to lessen the number of new cases as the race for a vaccine drags on. This is Dana Nuki, SMNI News, USA.
30,000 volunteers signed up in coronavirus vaccine trials in the United States, along with the goal to produce a working COVID-19 vaccine by the end of the year. Paulo Fortuna has the details.
More than 30,000 volunteers have been enrolled in 2 major COVID-19 vaccine trials in the U.S.
Paul Mango, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, told reporters recently that they were on track, if not a little bit ahead, of the drive to develop a vaccine for the coronavirus and to produce tens of millions of doses by the end of the year. Moderna and Pfizer, the 2 vaccine manufacturers, will be enrolling a total of 60,000 volunteers for their Phase 3 trials. Enrollment is about halfway complete. AstraZeneca, which is partnering with the UK's University of Oxford, has also begun its 3rd phase trials on its COVID-19 vaccine, with study sites in the United States. Mango stressed that the research will not be affected even as Trump loses re-election, because most of the experts working on Operation Warp Speed are not political appointees to the Trump administration.
During the Republican National Convention, President Donald Trump said in his speech Thursday evening that the country will produce a vaccine before the end of the year, or maybe even sooner. This is Paulo Fortuna, SMNI News, USA.
Economy experts in the United States fear that 1.4 million new jobs may not be sustained if coronavirus cases make a resurgence in the fall season starting in late September. Marjorie Carlos tells us more.
1.4 million jobs are expected to be added in August, bringing recovered jobs to about 10.8 million. But economists fear that this may not be sustained if coronavirus cases surge again this fall and federal stimulus money runs out. The new jobs are just half of what was lost in March and April during the height of the pandemic. America's biggest airline companies have announced more furloughs unless they get help from the federal government. American Airlines has said it will have to lay off or furlough 19,000 workers unless Congress steps in. United Airlines also said that it may furlough roughly 20% of its pilots. The hospitality sector may also experience further job cuts. MGM Resorts, one of the largest casino chains in the United States, announced on Friday that it's laying off 18,000 furloughed workers, with casinos struggling to bounce back. The United States is among the world's biggest economies that continues to be affected by the recession, which include Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom. This is Marjorie Carlos, SM9 News, USA.
President Donald Trump visited Kenosha, Wisconsin on Tuesday, going against the wishes of officials who asked that he stays away from the city due to violent unrest stemming from the Black Lives Matter protest. Calvin Liquanan for this report.
On Tuesday, President Donald Trump visited Kenosha to bring his campaign message of law and order to members of law enforcement, at the same time toward businesses damaged during riots after the recent shooting of Jacob Blake and subsequent demonstrations that have turned deadly. Trump arrived in Kenosha on Tuesday afternoon to assess the destruction from unrest over the shooting of Jacob Blake last week. The president claimed that he does not plan to meet with the family of Jacob Blake during his visit. Jacob Blake is a 29-year-old black man who was shot in the back several times by a police officer after responding to a domestic violence call. However, Donald Trump met with Attorney General William Barr and Acting Department of Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf on Tuesday to discuss the ongoing civil unrest across the country. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers asked Trump to not visit Kenosha as the city works to heal and to prevent diverting local resources for a presidential visit. Kenosha Mayor John Antaramian revealed that the community has gone through a great deal and there is no time right now for politics to be played. We would prefer the president had waited at least another week or so before coming to visit. The president is always welcome, but at this time it's just the wrong time. Trump has not acknowledged whether his visit could result in violence by vigilantes and agitators and refused to denounce the violent actions in Portland and Wisconsin, including Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old vigilante who killed 2 protesters and injured another one last week. This is Calvin Quanon, SM9 News, USA.
Of one artist is unusual as she recreates the dress of Disney princesses into modern ones. Sherilyn Lanino tells us more.
Who loves Disney princesses? Well, we are fond of those since we grew up in our childhood years, idolizing a princess and dreaming of becoming one. We have also seen a lot of transformation of artists around the world with our favorite Disney characters. But what if they wore a different dress? Would you still recognize them? Let's take a look. An artist named Marta Sanchez. First, we have Snow White. Then, we have Pocahontas, followed by Belle. Then we have Aurora, Megara, and Esmeralda. And last but not the least, the most famous of all, Cinderella. According to the artist, it takes her roughly 6 to 9 years.
The Philippine Football Federation has approved the provisional license for the details.
The Philippine Football Federation is granted the provisional license for Maharlika Football Club. Following this, the said club will be the 5th licensed team that will join the 4th season of the Philippines Football League. Joining them will be Kaya FC Iloilo, Menjola FC 1991, Stallion Laguna FC, United City FC, and the Azgos development team. According to the report, Maharlika FC has undergone swab tests at the PFF House of Football in Pasig. Soon enough, the team will begin training at the National Training Center in Carmona, Cavite. Meanwhile, national athlete Ada Milby has joined the list of the World Rugby magazine. The list highlights the 50 most influential people in the sport for 2020. In a statement, Milby said that she is humbled to be included in the said list. In connection therewith, this is the first time that a Filipino has been recognized with the said feat. In the 30th Southeast Asian Games, Milby also won the silver medal and is currently the Secretary General of the Philippine Rugby Football Union. This is Hans Marshall, SM9 News.
A man in New Jersey has been offering free service of lawn mowing after being laid off from his job. Let's hear more from Justine Nazario.
Though Brian Schartz just lost his job, he didn't let it get the best of him. But instead, he made himself busy and also made other people happy. Since mid-June, Brian has been offering free lawn mowing service to senior citizens. According to him, he just wanted to do something good and feel good also. So while looking for a new job, he got an idea to offer his help to someone elderly in his neighborhood. He said that it was nice to help each other and also he believes in good karma. He launched a website, iwantomowyourlawn.com, so that those who are in dire need of service can contact him easily, and to their delight, it is free of charge, but they can donate for the gas expense. In the midst of this pandemic, he said that it feels good and feels right following what his heart wanted to do. Reporting, this has been Justine Nazario, SMNA News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with a message of the appointed Son of God. Your decision now will determine your future here in the kingdom. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit sminewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts in YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Once again, I'm Val Divina Gracia. Thank you for watching Newsline World.